Here we will see client-side rendering. Client-side rendering, known as CSR, is a JavaScript rendering method that uses JavaScript to render a website or application in the browser. With CSR, the processing and rendering of the content happens in the browser rather than on the server. Here the server sends a HTML file with links to JavaScript file, and the browser downloads the required resources and uses them to populate the page and render the content. It is commonly used for applications that have dynamic content and require a high degree of interactivity like chat apps and social media platforms. It is also ideal for single page applications and internal applications like admin and the user dashboards that don't need to be indexed by search engines. Client-side rendering consists of following steps. First, the user requests a web page from the browser. This user action triggers a GET request to the server, which identifies the desired route or URL. Then the browser requests the initial HTML file from the server. This file contains links to the external CSS style sheets and JavaScript files. Then the browser passes the HTML markup and constructs the document object model tree, which represents the web page structure. Then the browser sends additional requests to the server to download the CSS and JavaScript resources. The browser uses the DOM tree and downloaded CSS files to render the basic structure of the web page, which includes elements like text, images, buttons, and styles. Then the browser executes the JavaScript code to add interactivity and dynamic content to the page. This can include animations, form validations, or fetching data from an API. As the user interacts with the web page, like by clicking the button or filling the form, the browser will re-render parts of the web page based on the user's action. This can involve updating the DOM or making additional requests to the server for new data. The updated DOM, along with any dynamically fetched data, is rendered by the browser, which results in fully interactive and dynamically updated web page. Working of client-side rendering is as follows. When the site is dynamically created by JavaScript, it can also be used for getting the data from the databases asynchronously through an API. Usually, site will load the dynamic HTML and then you will see the information from the database on your web page. It takes longer for a client to make request and get a response from an API than a server. First, client requests to the server, then the server sends basic HTML files to JavaScript. JavaScript fetches the data or API from the database, and then this data will be displayed on the client web page. Benefits of CSR includes: it allows for highly interactive and dynamic web applications as rendering and data fetching happen on the client side. This approach provides a smoother user experience, especially for applications with frequent content updates. Once the initial JavaScript bundle is loaded, subsequent navigation and page transitions are often faster since only data needs to be fetched from the server rather than the entire HTML markup. Client-side rendering frameworks such as React or Angular often give rich toolset for building complex UI components and managing application state. Limitation of server-side renderings are: search engines mostly struggle to interrupt JavaScript heavy applications, which potentially impact search engine ranking if not handled properly. Most of the processes are happening on the user's browser. User must have JavaScript enabled in their browser for the application to function properly. And this process requires downloading and executing JavaScript code on the client side, which can lead to slower the page load times, especially on low power devices or slow network connections. Popular choices for implementing client-side renderings are JavaScript frameworks like React, Vue.js, Angular, Backbone.js, Ember.js, and Servlet.